soon as we can't start remembering things, then you can have a break.
If you see us fading away.
Okay.
So a question I have is okay, next question. Why did Maxwell initially start with only grades 7, 8, and 9?
Well, because we wanted to take that age group. We couldn't take elementary school. They're too young to be away from their parents. But at that age, they're below age 15 and they're still young enough to mold and develop and train, and they're not too set in their behaviors. If kids get into high school, then it's harder.
Yeah.
Harder. They have habits and things that are difficult. And also, it says in the Baha'i writings, when you reach age 15, that's the age of maturity. So, and we wanted to start with just 3 grades and then add a grade every year.
Right.
That was the thinking.
And then at one point, there was a decision that there would no longer be boarding students for grade 7. Is that right?
Because they were too young and immature.
Yeah.
We found out. They weren't independent enough just for their personal care.
Yeah.
So, they were homesick and lonely, and of course a lot of the kids older were too, but that's why we decided after, I think, the first year to drop grade 7. I think. But I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Ask one of the dorm parents about that.
Right. Now, for both of you, how did you, because first you had to have this vision really clear, and you laid it out before the staff. You laid it out before the students. In fact, I understand you laid it out before the spouses of the staff, so that everyone was really on board. They understood what's going on. How did you lay it out for the parents? The vision of Maxwell, what you are attempting to create. How did you let parents who don't live there, how did you get them on board?
I think, well, there was a few structure or I don't guess what would be the word. We had to improve the communication between the school and the parents. LaNelma was the main focal for a long time because she's the first to meet the parents.
Right.
She's if parents come to visit, the front office knows, send them to LaNelma.
Miss Johnson, yeah.
And she will set. It's just like in public schools, the teachers once a year or twice a year, they have parent-teacher conferences.
Yes.
Everybody goes. They're supposed to go. Okay, and for those 12 minutes, you're supposed to communicate with each other.
Right.
And so on. Okay. Well, we're trying to find ways by having events at the school that parents are invited to.
Yes.
More than 50% of your parents are overseas.
Right.
Okay? So we're hampered. Newsletter. Okay? We tried that, and I don't know if we stuck with it the whole time or not. But again, it's kind of impersonal.
Right.
And their own kid could be writing a letter about what happened last week in the English class. And so we tried that. So that once a week, you get an envelope and a stamp, and you sit down, or had the day you come with your letter done, something, so that through the academic area, we were encouraging the kids to write home, because 9 times out of 10, if the kid calls home, it's because they don't cook good food here.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
There's a problem.
Right. And so
I see.
The parents only hear the negative side as perceived by the student.
Right.
And then, the parents write to the office.
Yes.
And again, she gets some of those letters and she has to pick up the phone and call the parent.
Right.
And say, well, that's not quite what happened.
Right.
But it's usually not a letter. It's usually a phone call.
Usually, yeah, depending on what the kid has said,
But could we
Yeah.
go back? Because
Okay.
from the beginning, before the student ever comes to the school, every advertisement that your parents heard about, there was a statement about the vision of the school.
I see.
And they didn't have when they came in, the parents got handbooks too.
Yeah.
So they knew
yeah.
what the standards were.
I see.
Well,
They
if they read it.
They knew what the interview was because
Yes.
every interview was the same. There was a list of questions and a lot of scenarios, for the student. What would you do if kind of thing? And do you want to be here? And why do you want to be here? And what,
The interview was done with the parent. Do you know if the interview was done with the parents there?
the parent
It was
was
always
not there.
independent.
Mhm.
Got it.
Whenever possible.
Yeah.
We always had exceptions.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But I think the parents, when they children came to the school, they knew what the expectations were.
Yeah.
They knew what the vision was.
Right.
They knew what the goals were, and so forth. So, I think a lot of times the phone calls that were received, and my thing with the parents was to always be listening
Yes.
and hearing, because even if it was just negatives coming from the student,
Yes.
the parent, as long as they didn't hear, the parents wanted to get calls from the kids, but
Right.
the kids didn't usually call when they had a happy day.
Right.
It was just when something went wrong.
Usually you'd call, a kid
Yeah.
will call home when there's a crisis,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which happens at least once a week at that age.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, I had a very good relationship with, I think, all the parents, and a lot of homesickness was going on, not just from the students, but the parents were missing
Mm.
their children, and they would
Yeah.
call almost weekly, and we would talk through it, and then I would ask them, you call the dorm parent too, and so on. But every week we have meetings, we discuss these issues and what's happening and so on. But
Just speak up a
basically it's just listening and assuring the parents that their child is okay,
Right.
and that this is just part of growing up and maturing, and children of that age.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So, next question. Tell me a little bit about your individual day, an average day at Maxwell. Literally, what time would you wake up in the morning? What would you focus on in the morning hours? What would you focus on in the middle afternoon? So tell me about your day in a practical way. Either one first. We'll go both.
You want to start first, or I can?
LaNelma, why don't you start first?
Well, I think it's better if he starts first because
Okay.
his day started before mine.
Fair enough. Fair
It
enough.
still does.
Still does.
It still does. I want everybody to know that I'm up making chai
Very nice.
before she arrives. So when she comes out, kind of walking like this,
Waiting
her
for my
cup of
cup.
tea.
The chai is ready.
The chai is ready.
So that
Okay.
it sounds like that's been like that for
Anyway,
some time.
I've always been an early riser all through, my other types of educational responsibilities.
Yes.
And it's about the only time, once the day starts, so to speak, that I can have the time to reflect, go through my to-do list, and get done or make the calls, because sometimes I'm calling someone halfway around the world, and so the day starts with me in control. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then as the day goes on, my control deteriorates. But I enjoy the early morning, and I get most of my paperwork done in the morning. And so,
Yeah.
the phone starts ringing, and this starts, and so it just starts disrupting. What I've written down, I can't do now.
Right.
But the next step in the process of my day at school morning assembly. I try, if I have the time, I try to go and have dawn prayers with some of the dorms, and I do the same thing in the evening. I pick a dorm or something, and usually visit for prayers. And then it's morning assembly, and sometimes it's all of the Maxwell people know that it's an opportunity, number one, to connect with what should be going on in the school and what to anticipate.
Right.
And we had a stream of, I'll call them consultants. Yeah, I'm trying to decide, but we had a 3-week course on the dispensation of Baha'u'llah, and
Yes.
we had it at a time so that the outside community could participate if they wanted to.
I see.
Okay. We had virtues. We had a virtues program where the creator of virtues came to the school. And
now, it sounds like, just to kind of summarize, it sounds like in the morning time, it was early rise and get a lot of the paperwork or kind of like the specific things. And then throughout the day, on some level, you have to put out fires. I know this from running my own practice.
And
so
you don't know what's coming down the pipeline. You may have an inkling that, we're going to have to be alert for this or something out. We had the unnatural, if I want to call that, but the personal tragedy of a parent dying, or, like that. Other types of personal crises, and that I had to immediately address and drop whatever I'm doing. And because of the nature of our population, that also, like LaNelma was talking about, a student that within their culture, this is a warning sign of depression and things to get involved in immediately, so you can put the potential fire out. But in our interpretation was way off.
Right.
Okay. Well,
right.
Anyway.
Now, what time?
Linda Popoff and John, they were jewels.
Yes.
Okay. Others like them would come in and shot in the arm, for the students, and so that was wonderful.
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
We had, I don't know how many, I should count them and name them and put them down for your records. Members of the House of Justice, the counselors, the hands, and visiting the school, and imagine, being face to face and talking to hands of the cause. There were very few left.
Right.
You see? And so, but they treasure that. I met Bill Sears.
Right.
Peter Kahn, David Rue. I mean, so you have these pillars of the faith that they were actually there talking to them or shaking their hands or asking a question. And some students are going to treasure that the rest of their life.
Yeah, yeah.
So that side of it also.
So in the middle of the day was a combination of academics and life, every aspect of life. Because one of the things is that at an international boarding school, you're dealing with every aspect of life. Academics is just a relatively small portion of that life.
Yeah.
At what time would you disengage from the school? Were you ever off the clock?
Oh yes, once a month. We would take a 3-day holiday and go to a little island somewhere.
And that was on the advice of Dr. and Mrs. Rue.
Wonderful.
They said if you want to survive long term, Because we lived in campus, as you know.
Yes.
Next to dorm A. And they said, you need to leave the campus once a month. And we did. We took their advice, and we went to a little bed and breakfast on one of the islands around. And we would leave, actually, it wasn't 3 days. It was usually Friday afternoon and over the
Back on
weekend
Sunday.
and back on
So
Saturday
really
night.
2 full days, right? Sure.
But it really helped rejuvenate us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume that part of your daily structure was unplanned, whether it's evening or late afternoon or in the middle of the night, minor disasters and emergencies. When that happened, would you have to engage, or did other staff take care of it, or were you involved with that?
Both. Sometimes I would call upon, an individual that I think had better skills than I did.
Yeah.
To address this.
Yes.
And then report back.
I see.
And there was opportunities for growth, and sometimes I would ask someone to take charge of this, and it was really for his benefit or her benefit.
Yeah.
For the experience, rather than I'm not capable or I'm this. And so, it's just an administrative skill that you would recognize people that, this person is really going to bloom and really, has a lot more to offer.
Yes.
And I think more responsibility would do that. And so I'd call him in and I'd tell him, I'd really like you to take on more responsibility. You can do it. You need the experience. And I'd like for you to volunteer.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Really.
Beautiful. Good.
Yeah.
Now, LaNelma, Ms. Johnson, tell me a little bit about your day.
Yeah.
You had a different set of functions at the school. So when would your day start, and what would that day look like throughout the day?
How would I divide it up?
How would you divide it up? Yeah.
Well, I'm a fairly early riser as well, but I didn't go to my office early in the morning like Ray. Sometimes he would be there like at 5:30. And
5:30 a.m.
he would probably walk around down the campus and all around, then go to his office. 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Wow.
But
That's not waking up at 5:30 or 6. That's actually being on campus at 5:30 or 6.
Yeah. Then, but I would usually, I was always at assembly, and that was usually maybe I would go in and have breakfast with the students before, and then go up to assembly. So I usually did that. And then after that, I had a to-do list, but the to-do list had to be very flexible, because my day would be dealing with admissions, with residential. Once a week we had dorm parent meetings. Those were usually held at my house. Or maybe once every month or two we would go off campus somewhere just to have a little sort of retreat kind of thing. And then individual meetings with the nurse or the counselors, just visiting the dorms to see how the students are doing with their cleanliness and their tidiness and so on. And then I would have, at break time, hopefully I'd be free. I could go in and have coffee with the teachers, just to socialize a little bit with the teachers and so on. Then I would have phone calls with parents. I'd be working with Cheryl Nashadi was my assistant after the first year. And then after she quit when her first baby was born, and then Brigitte Ife came on as my assistant. But I would be, people would be dropping into the school to see the school, and I'd be the one to take them on tours of the campus. And we'd have guests coming, like Ray said, and having to make sure that they were entertained and hospitality.
Many of them
was
stayed on
there.
campus too.
Yeah, like Ruthie
they had
Cunham
to-
stayed in the campus. And
Where did
so
she stay?
Dorm A.
Where her office.
Wow.
And Mr. Sears, Mr. and Mrs. Sears came before the school ever opened.
Wow.
And
They stayed in them.
they
maybe.
stayed in the little suite where my office became when I
Okay.
was in the dorm.
Yeah.
Dorm A, no, dorm A, B, C, D.
I see.
Yeah. Do you
that's
remember when
fantastic.
my office was there?
I think there's two essential offices in dorm A. One was by where the laundry room side of it, and one was the non-laundry room side. But downstairs of dorm,
It was dorm D.
dorm D. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry, I
dorm
said
D.
A. I meant to say D.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one closest to
Well,
campus.
that's
Right?
where Mr. and Mrs. Sears stayed.
Oh, nice.
And
Yeah.
so it was my job to make sure that was all arranged. So a lot of my job was the visitors as well.
Right.
And just making sure that, like interviews, I would be talking to people and, sending faxes because
Right.
we used to send faxes.
Yeah.
And to the interviewers and talking to them through the interview process and so on before they met the student, arranging for the student to meet the interviewer. And
Right.
so a lot of coordination like that was done on the phone. And when parents had issues, I'd talk to them and so on. Sometimes the students came in, but Cheryl always I told her she was such a good counselor. She went on to become a counselor. She's got a master's degree now in counseling. I said, you need to be a counselor because you solve the child's problem before they have to get to me.
Beautiful.
Because I had the inner office and she had the outer office where students would come and sit. And
Oh, that's fantastic.
But and then we usually would go to somebody's dorm for the prayers. Not every night we would go there because sometimes we would have assembly meetings or sometimes we'd have Mr. and Mrs. Bond come for dinner or something like that in the evening. But usually before we went to bed we'd always take a round and then go home, go to sleep by 10 o'clock hopefully.
Yeah.
Sometimes we got calls in the night, but not always.
Not always.
Sometimes, one time we had someone knocking on the door. We had already gone to bed, and went down and anyway, opened the door, and LaNelma had come down behind me, and opened the door, and this guy came in, and he had this heavy coat on, it was wet, big beard, and I said, could I help you? And then behind me, LaNelma says,
Farhang,
Farhang,
one of our Indian students that we hadn't seen in years. I recognized him.
Oh my gosh.
Even with his
way
beard,
up in the.
He had lived in Abu Dhabi or somewhere like that, and he was living way up in Alaska or somewhere. And he said,
I heard you were
I
here.
heard you were here. I just came to see you."
Oh my
So
gosh.
I just came.
There I am. Yeah, it's like a magnet.
Yeah, we had a couple others
And
show up last year.
One night, Ray had a knock, and it was
Brigitte.
no, it was the dorm parent of Wendy Bateman,
Oh,
and
There's-
her service project
put
was
that
to
one
go to the nursing home.
Hmm.
She had become friends. It was first year student, and she had become very good friends with this old man Frank, and the nursing home called and said he may die tonight, and he was asking for Wendy. So Ray had to go in the middle of the night and
Wow.
to the dorm and ask Wendy if she wanted to go, and she said, "Of course." So she jumped out of bed and got, Ray left and
Wow.
met her, said, "I'll meet you in the car," and he took her.
Wow.
And he didn't die that night,
it was
but
a few days
but she
later.
cheered him up, and yeah. So things like that happen.
Yeah.
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 But not every night.
Let me ask you this: when things were at their when there was a very challenging situation, what were if you could name it in just a sentence or two, what were one or two principles that would help guide you out of a difficult, challenging situation? Whether that's with parents, children, whoever that was, institutions, anything.
She sings it every day.
What's that?
Oh, God, refresh and gladden my spirit. No, always, I think what he said, bringing yourself to account every day so that you know you're doing the best you can, trying not to react in a crisis mode, to remain calm in all circumstances, even when a child comes to your house and says, I want to tell you I've been abused, and this has happened, and that's happened, and so forth, and what to do with that situation, to love the student and comfort them, know they're safe. They know they're safe, otherwise they wouldn't tell you. But that through love and understanding and consultation, we're going to get through this.
Love, understanding, consultation.
Yeah.
Keeping calm, keeping perspective.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Don't you think so, hon?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's not the time to get excited and jumping around. It's the time
And
for
we had-
calmness.
Yeah.
Right, and we had situations, and all of you students know about it, and it's not a secret. We had an incident with a student who
Yeah.
came to the school from Africa, and she had been raped, and she was so young. And how the school handled that.
Can you speak up a little bit louder?
How the school
Yeah,
handled that with love and understanding, and just wrapped our arms around her, and every student in the school did that.
Yeah.
And she knew she was loved and she was safe there.
How did you handle that situation? So you have a student who had had terrible sexual abuse, and is now pregnant. Did she carry the pregnancy through
Yes.
during campus at
Absolutely.
campus time?
Yep.
Absolutely.
And then when it was
And
time
the
to give,
students really looked after her.
beautiful.
The boys were so protective of her.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
And then did she give birth in Canada? Or was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
She gave birth, and it was a private adoption to a Baha'i couple. And that young man came back to Maxwell School and graduated from Maxwell School. Everybody knows, and he knows who his biological mother is,
Yeah.
Anissa Aga.
Yeah.
And he's a graduate of Maxwell, and he's a beautiful young man who
Yeah.
is now married, I think, and,
Yeah.
and
He's
had
married
always had a
to the children of two of the year of service.
really.
Maxwell year of service. Yeah.
So it was a beautiful growing experience that the whole community was like a family
Beautiful.
and cared for her and protected her and loved her so much.
Sounds like she didn't receive much. Nothing like she wasn't ostracized. It sounds like she
No.
wasn't. There was none
Not
of that.
whatsoever.
No space for that.
No, not at all.
Beautiful.
Not that we know about.
But we didn't smother her either. I mean, we talked through the whole thing, answered all the students' questions.
And of course, we did all this with her. She wanted the students to know.
And
I
that's
mean, she was
unknown to me. There were a couple parents that were visiting that school that day and happened to come to the morning assembly. And so they didn't participate in any way, but they observed and absorbed and were moved tremendously.
Yeah.
And one recently said that was the height of Baha'i experience for me. And,
Wow.
you know, I've
How
never
the communication-
imagined or seen anything, only dreamed about such a environment that was
Wow.
created.
Yeah, because in so many places, even today in 2018, this sort of thing can happen, and all of a sudden there's
And then it's just, you know,
political, or it's ostracizing the person, or
Everything.
there's blame and whatnot. So
yeah.
that's
It
fantastic.
is getting dark out here.
I was going to pause it.
And the gnats are biting me. and
Let's take a
everything
break.
else.
You're getting